Welcome back to Where Hatters Walk. That was not the start that Luton Town fans expected. Here to digest it all, we have Dan, Mark, and Sam from Where Hatters Walk. Roll the titles. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Luton Town 1, Burnley 4. Mark.
Where do you want me to start? Probably after 6 minutes.
Yeah. When did you leave the ground?
Sorry?
When did you leave the ground? Was it after the third, after the fourth, or did you...
No, I never leave the ground early. Sort of like stay to support them till the end. So yeah, I stay till the end. I just have to say, as poor as we were, and we were poor, and I know there's lots of ins and outs got to happen at most clubs, but Burnley looked on side, and it looks like very difficult to judge in one game. It looked like they might be the team to beat, but I think with our injuries and from my point of view, I didn't think that Burnley had to work too hard for their opportunities. The two of the goals were the through balls, the first two goals. Third goal was a free header. And then obviously we're chasing the game. And the fourth one was just a clinical break at fast pace, direct. Yeah, just better than us, basically.
Yeah. There are those on social media, Dan, that say, do you know what? We actually have learned nothing about Luton and nothing about Burnley in that game, because you had three teenagers making their professional debuts.
Yeah.
So many players out. So really, we can't read too much into this result. And come the end of the season, it'll be all forgotten about. Do you go along with
that? Yeah, to a point. I don't think that was our strongest 11 that we have if it's a fully fit squad. But it was more or less as good as what we can put out at the moment, given the fact that we are restricted with injuries, and we seem to have a large amount of them hung over from last year, and a couple that are picked up in the meantime. I think Clark's picked a knock up as well. He was missing from the lineup completely, else he'd have definitely been in from the start. And it told, like Mark said, with the two goals, the first two goals against the run of play, you're asking teenagers to pick up and know what these experienced pros are going to be doing, and they just sort of pickpocketed them really and made use of their experience and our lack of experience at the back. And you look at the back three, it was made up of a 21-year-old in Ted and Mengi, who had a season in the Premier League, and then you've got Joe Johnson, who's a left wing back and 18 years old, making his senior debut, and you've got Royal Waters, who's a fullback, 19 years old, and you've mashed them together and trying to make sense of it all. And that's where the problem was, when you've got experienced forwards like they've got and the players have got available to them. On the back of it, I think we got off lightly.
Were there any positives you could take from the game at all?
We got a goal. The second half was a little bit better, I think, after half time. Sort of the first 20 minutes, I think, when we got back in the game, and just before they got the third, I felt that we were starting to get back onto it. And I think for about 5 minutes after that, it looked like there was only going to be one team that gets a result, and it could have been us. And then the third goal happened, and it completely shot us to pieces. But it's always encouraging to see your own players making senior debuts that you've brought through yourself. So there's that. And I don't think we picked up any fresh injuries either, which for us is got to be a plus. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Sam, there's a lot of discontent, of course, in the stands. It's carried on onto social media, I think, this morning, about the club's lack of transfer activity and obviously replacements for key players which you've either lost or are unable to use at the moment. Where do you stand on this? Do you think the club have been sleepwalking a bit over the summer, or is that unfair?
I think it is difficult for the recruitment team, as clubs will know we have more money now, so they might be trying to ask for more money for their players. However, I think we have been a little complacent, only bringing two players in, both free agents. I think many fans would have wanted us to replace Lokonga or replace Lockyer, who we haven't really replaced. I think we have been a bit complacent in the window so far, and we should have strengthened more in midfield, central defence.
What do you want to see done, Sam, in the 2 weeks that we've got left of this window then?
I would like to see 2 midfielders brought in, one more defensive minded to cover for Nakamba, and probably another midfielder who is quite good on the ball, can distribute the ball out the back, which we have Baptiste who can do that well, but someone else as well to sort of replace Barkley. And then the other transfer I'd like to see is a leader in central defence, someone who could organise the defence, play in the middle, so we could put Mengi to right centre back. I think we need to replace Lockyer. I think those 3 players are who we're missing.
Okay. Mark, a lot of the comments last night were Luton are missing Barkley. Is that just lazy journalism, or?
Yeah, I mean, first thing is you cannot replace Barkley. He was like just like one of the best players you've seen, and we were fortunate to have him for a year. And if we're being honest, it's probably too good for us in terms of what he did. But from my point of view, I'm sort of I'm a bit more. I mean, no one's happy about how we lost last night, and yes, everyone wants more signings. But from my point of view, is like Nick Harford said, we don't buy stopgaps. Everything is about the long-term progression of the club, and also if we go out and buy 3, I mean, from what Rob's saying, that Reece Burke and Amari Bell was on the bench yesterday. Matt Anderson's not far. So basically, if you go out and buy 3 centre halves, in a couple of weeks' time, you're going to have 6 defenders. And for me, all we've got to do is get through the next 3 games, because then you get a 2-week window for the international break. Then we start to get people back. So we definitely need to strengthen, but I think there was quite a bit of overreaction from my point of view, that unfortunately we haven't got back the injuries from last year. Obviously Reece Burke just has it's just struggling to keep him fit for a whole season. But yeah, we need to strengthen the right areas. The club will be sort of working overtime to get the people in they want. And as Sam said, we're not going to be held to ransom just because we've got parachute payments. And I just feel that judges when the window closes and when we've got people fit back, and then we'll see where we're at. But it's definitely not time to panic. And the club always seem to come out of the transfer window stronger. So let's let them do their business, get people back, and then let's see where we are.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to Rate My Take. This is where we publish some of the views from some Luton Town fans on games. Dan, I'm going to ask you to have a look at this one first. It's addressed some of the points we've already made, but this was from Chris on the BBC website, published last night. What are the Luton Town board doing? We've lost Osho and Lockyer and haven't replaced them. Lokonga and Barkley have both gone and we haven't replaced them either. We have cash to spend. Let's blooming spend it. Men versus boys tonight. We need signings ASAP. Or, and this is the bit I want you to comment on, mid-table is looming. Is that too harsh?
I think it's forgetting who we were playing last night. I think I said last week, I think Burnley will win the league. I think that is as strong as we're going to be facing this year. And yes, we're under strength, and I don't think we've prepared properly. And I don't think it's for a lack of trying either. I know we've only signed 2 players, and Rob's been saying all pre-season that they've been trying to get a couple more in, and it isn't as simple as we like him, let's sign him. And it's done. Negotiations take longer. There's agents involved. There's all sorts of other things involved, logistical things as well. So I think it's a reactive post, that one. he's right. We do need a couple. Sam said earlier we'd probably need a couple more in midfield, which is right at the moment. But I don't think there's too much to read into it. I don't think we'll be mid-table. I still think we'll be thereabouts. And like Mark said, judges after the window, judges after 10, 12 games, and then we'll sort of have a better idea of where we're at. But the next couple of weeks are important to try and get a couple more in through the door, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam, this second one does take into account the opposition. Stuart on Twitter says Burnley will batter a lot of teams, admittedly, but you should never, as an ex-Premier League club, go into the first game of the season with an 11, including 3 lads making their first ever starts in the pro game. And if you do, then you don't play a full press 5-2-3 formation. Absolute suicide. Do you agree with that?
The wording is a bit dramatic, but I think I do agree with the gist of it, really. I think obviously Edwards sees these players in training, so he knows more, but I question why we've signed Tom Holmes if we can't play him in a game like this. I would have liked to see Mengi possibly on the left and Holmes in the middle. I think starting Johnson, Walters and Nelson all in the first game against Burnley, who, as Dan said, probably will win the league, I think is a little bit reckless. So I think I do agree with that.
Okay. All right. Lovely. Starting this week then on Where Hatters Walk and following on right through to the next 6 weeks, we are reviewing the positions that you have and all the signings that you have or haven't made in key areas of the field. We're starting this week with goalkeepers. So, Mark, I'll come to you first. Before we look at your goalkeepers, who's the best ever goalkeeper to put on a Luton shirt that you've seen, Mark?
Let's see, Lee.
Okay.
Lucky man.
It's going back a bit.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I have to say, just from what we saw last year, Thomas Kaminski is right up there. I know he's only had one season, and it was a lot of comparisons, Ricky Hill and Ross Barkley, and the fact that Ricky had done it over a long, long time. But yeah, I mean, I'm massively impressed. I have to say, I wouldn't have, this might be controversial, but I wouldn't swap Thomas Kaminski with any other keeper in the Championship. Okay.
All right. Sound praise indeed. Dan, are you as convinced with Kaminski as Marcus?
Yeah, definitely. He made some quality saves last night, and there's nothing new for us. We saw him make several key saves in games last year that kept us from getting a whop in at times. And I think he won save of the season for one save as well. So he's the best goalkeeper we have. We've got a couple of others as well that don't get mentioned that are there pushing him. And it's always important to have a squad of 3 goalkeepers that will push your number one keeper to be at his best at all times, and I think we've got that. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Sam, how do you rate your backups should he get injured? You think this is actually probably one of your strongest areas, isn't it, goalkeepers?
Yeah, I think goalkeepers we are quite stacked in. I think obviously Kaminski is so important to us, but we haven't really. There's been a few rumours linking Krul with a move away, and he didn't look too secure in the cup games last season. I would say I would perhaps be inclined to see Jack Walton tested out, but obviously Krul is massive for his leadership and experience, so I don't really mind him being around.
Okay. All right then. So we move on from Burnley. Like you said, but before we move on finally from Burnley, do you think you've seen the champions of the league last night?
I do, yes.
Yeah. It looks like it.
Oh, fair dues. Burnley fans will be pleased to hear that. All right, let's move on to your next opponents. Then we will have a Pompey fan joining us, but they're currently playing in the Carabao Cup at the time of recording this, so we are used. Now, my records say, and you will correct me, that your record at Fratton Park is one of the worst in terms of away goals. Obviously, you haven't played Pompey, regularly for season after season, but 1975, I think, is the last time that Luton actually saw a victory there. It's nearly 50 years ago. So, Mark, do you hold any hope of ending that record this Saturday?
I knew it was poor. I didn't realise it was that poor. Almost as bad as Burnley, and that we don't seem to beat Burnley. So I think it's always a tough game when you're playing a promoted side in their first home game. The crowd are going to be up for it. It's a fantastic atmosphere at Fratton Park, and basically we just don't need to give the crowd any encouragement whatsoever. Keep it tight, and I know we're conceding, and we haven't got the fit defenders playing we want to, but yeah, I think it's key that we stay compact and I think basically away from home, get Chio to use his pace, and I actually think we'll get a result. Draw maybe, yeah, I'll probably go for a draw. But yeah, we've got to quieten the crowd, stay competitive, and John. I mean, you asked if there's any positives from last night, but John looked like he was trying to create something, and he's got pace to burn and is a threat. So yeah, I think we'll get a result. I'm not sure whether we'll win, but I don't think we'll lose. We'll come away with something.
Dan, do you want to see Rob Edwards being a little bit more direct away from home this season? Do you want to see something a bit more? Do you want to see something different than what you saw in the Premier League? I know it's a different ballpark, but this is the Championship. You can take a few more risks, can't you?
I think we can afford to take a few more risks. Yeah, I wouldn't sound qualified to know where those risks would be. I'd leave that to him. But I'm one of those fans that likes to just see a result at the end of the match. So if we have to play ugly, dig deep, and get ugly, or play more direct, or play long, or whatever it takes, because I think what we did last night with the lineup we had, it was evident it didn't work, and we left it really late making changes to that as well. So I'd like to see us sort of have a plan B, if you like. I'm not quite sure there was one last night, and maybe make some changes a little bit earlier as well. Just judge the game a bit earlier and don't leave it to the 75th minute before you make your first change, sort of thing. So yeah, slightly different approach, but not too drastic.
Right. And Sam, big question then for you then. The starting 11 against Pompey should be different to the starting 11 against Burnley in what way?
I think Amari Bell was on the bench against Burnley. I think if he's able to be on the bench, apparently he's been training last few weeks. I think I would probably bring him back for Johnson. Then for midfield, I'm not sure how you can change it, as he obviously doesn't rate Pelly that much anymore if Nelson is starting ahead of him. So I think it'll probably be Nelson and Baptiste again, but I think Bell could come in for Johnson, and then it'd be Bell, Mengi, Walters back three. So that would be the one change I'd make.
All right. Well, good luck. Travelling to Portsmouth, it's not too far of a journey. You'll certainly have longer ones, won't you?
Yeah, it's half 12 kickoff.
Season to do, yeah. And I've seen you got QPR on a Friday night to come as well, so that's going to be one for the neutrals to enjoy, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, their encounter's always good.
Yeah. We'll get into the QPR debate in a couple of weeks. Join us next week then on the channel, as obviously we will review the Pompey game. We'll also obviously talk about the Carabao Cup draw, because Luton will be into round 2, and we'll find out their opponents this week, and where the Carabao Cup features on Luton Town's priorities. And of course, we'll also talk about central defenders. Who's been the best pairing of central defenders for Luton Town in their history, and what does this team currently think of the current crop of central defenders? I'm pretty sure I can guess the answer to that now. Join us next week. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe. We are the fastest and most compact Luton Town content on the internet, 20 minutes a week, reviewing everything that happens in the club. And thank you so much, Mark and Dan and Sam.
Thank you.